Good afternoon and good morning. My name is Peter DuPont. I'm a consultant to the Asian Development Bank. Delighted to be here with you today to introduce a very fascinating knowledge spotlight session from South Asia, delivered by the ADB South Asia Regional Department. The title of the webinar is Transformative Approaches to Rural Maharashtra's Agriculture, Addressing the Water, Food, Energy Nexus. And to kick us off today for this 1-hour webinar, I would like to introduce my colleague who will provide some introductory remarks, Jazeera Asanova. She is the Principal Coordination Specialist for the South Asia Regional Department. Jazeera, over to you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining our webinar today. Today's event is part of the series called SARD Spotlight, which our Director General, Kenichi Yokoyama, initiated a few years ago. And the idea behind this series is to showcase innovative projects in South Asia. I'd like to start off by quoting one of the leading innovation experts, Scott Anthony, the author of the book, Eat, Sleep, Innovate, and a Harvard Business Review author. Scott Anthony says that innovation happens at the intersection of various disciplines. And in today's session, we will see that a few sectors and line ministries in India's Maharashtra state have collaborated to produce an innovative approach in this particular state. And Scott Anthony also talks about 5 innovation behaviors. And those are curious, client-obsessed, collaborative, adept in ambiguity, and empowered. And the 2 project teams that we will be showcasing today have embraced these behaviors. And of course, cross-sector approaches like this help us break silos, bring out cross-disciplinary expertise, and join forces with our partners, of course, all of which is aligned with the 4 shifts that ADB has embarked upon. And I'd like to highlight one more point before I hand it back to Peter, and that is research on change management talks about the importance of a messenger in a cultural change. And our SARD management team has encouraged innovation behaviors by nudging our teams to develop and road test solutions, as well as share what has worked and what hasn't, so that these approaches can be replicated in other settings. And of course, innovative space, creating time and space for innovation is very important. And as we know, innovation is not always a straight line. It can be a very messy process. And so having tolerance for ambiguity in that process is also very important. I'm very excited to hear about the 2 projects today. And without further ado, I'd like to hand it back to Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Jazeera. Really great setting of the stage. And talking about the importance of cross-sectoral approaches, the importance of the messenger and change management and creating time and space for innovation. So to take this forward, I would like to introduce the Director General of ADB's South Asia Regional Department, Kenichi Yokoyama. Director General, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Peter. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and our valued partners from the government of Maharashtra, thank you for joining us today. I'd particularly like to welcome the guest speakers from Maharashtra State, State Electricity Distribution Company Limited, and Maharashtra Agribusiness Network Project Office, or Magnet Office. As we all know, ADB has the strategy 2030, visioning prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asian Pacific. Within this strategy 2030, there are 7 operational priorities, and one of the priorities is promoting rural development and food security, which is also closely associated with another priority of addressing remaining poverty and reducing inequality, which is a quite also relevant subject for rural Maharashtra. In tackling these and other priorities, ADB strongly advocates, as Jazeera mentioned, multidisciplinary approach to address the region's increasingly complex problems by providing holistic solutions through intersectoral collaboration. Also, delivering innovations in sectoral interventions is another important agenda for ADB's contribution to our developing member countries. So the subject of this discussion today is how ADB is demonstrating the delivery of such cross-sectoral solutions on the ground in the state of Maharashtra in India by presenting the cases of one energy and an agribusiness sector projects. We have a close engagements with Maharashtra state government in these respects. Actually, our relations originates from around June 2018, when India Resident Mission, I was a country director, joined AIIB's annual general meeting. At that time, we were invited to meet with the Chief Secretary and Chief Minister, who asked us our holistic developmental engagements and deliver quick results. So at that time, 4 projects were proposed: state highways, rural roads, and this HVDS and agriculture sector. Of these, state and rural roads were quickly delivered within 12 months. And Masa-san, who is joining with Magnet, is also closely engaged in that. And then the remaining 2, this HVDS project and Magnet, was delivered by 2020. So all these are interconnected engagements expected to deliver maximum benefits, tapping the opportunities provided by each project. So the HVDS project helps extending the high voltage distribution lines to rural areas. And this isolates the existing lines for agriculture use, enabling supply control and more efficient water usage, while reducing the system loss and financial sustainability. So this project adopts the result-based lending modality, which I'm also happy to say that this has substantially reduced the transaction cost, but also at the same time establishing clear result targets for the sound financial performance of the distribution company. The Magnet project is aiming at enhancing high-value agriculture, diversifying from traditional crops, helping formulate farmer-producer groups or companies, provide them with technical extension services, and facilitate them to access to finance, with establishment of special purpose vehicle to support the process with high level of autonomy. So these are all what I see as highly innovative projects, and the cross-sectoral linkage provides a good opportunity to address, to demonstrate these holistic solutions. So today's webinar is a great opportunity to share our experience and exchange views and ideas on how to roll out impactful interventions like this, bring transformational impacts like this, and maintain replication in ADB operations. So I'm confident that we can standardize the approach further across ADB and deepen our collaboration with ADB sector group and our developing member countries to maximize the economic potential in rural transformation. I wish all the participants an enriching and fruitful discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director General. It's really inspiring to just hear the background of these high impact projects and the engagement of the Indian government, especially the importance of the knowledge spotlights such as this as an opportunity to share experience and roll out the impact. So we're now going to go to a short video covering Magnet and the high voltage distribution system projects.
More than half of Maharashtra's labor force is employed in agriculture and related activities in rural areas. However, frequent power cuts and poor quality of electricity supply forces farmers to depend on costly diesel pumps for irrigation. Additional equipment and high operational costs further traps them in a cycle of poverty. The government of Maharashtra's Vision 2030 is focusing on boosting the state's agriculture sector, improving agricultural productivity and farmers' incomes. In line with this vision, the Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Company Limited, supported by ADB, is working to enhance efficiency of the electricity value chain through the high voltage distribution system.
Poverty reduction is the most important focus of state government, particularly Maharashtra. Poverty can only be reduced only if agriculture productivity of the farmers gets increased.
Since we are providing a direct connections to these farmers with the high voltage line, so the chances of the theft are zero. Losses are also very, very minimal. Even that transformer failures, the incidence of the transformer failure is very less.
The program has helped to improve the State Electricity Distribution Companies or MSEDCL's institutional capacity and trained about 1,000 staff in capital investments, operation, maintenance, monitoring and safeguards for high voltage distribution system. Through the program, the staff will also be trained in systems for metering, billing, collection and enforcement.
HVDS ज्यावेळेस स्वतंत्र ट्रान्सफर आला तेव्हापासून बोरला पाणी वाढले, आमच्या उत्पन्नात वाढ झाली आणि तेव्हापासून आम्ही भाजीपाला शेती करतोय पूर्ण आणि खूप मोठा फायदा झाला.
MSEDCL is committed to extend its power supply in the remote and farthest area of Maharashtra, like in the district of Gadchiroli, Nandurbar, which are the tribal areas. The power supply is extended. At the same time, in the district of Latur, there are some earthquake-prone areas where MSEDCL has extended its power supply.
ADB has a related pilot to support efficient pumps and drip irrigation for HVDS connections. ADB is also supporting Maharashtra's horticulture farmers and value chain operators through the Maharashtra Agribusiness Network or MAGNET project.
This focuses on capacity building activities of farmer producer organizations and various value chain operators. So this capacity building activities focuses on training on good agriculture practices, then training on post-harvest management practices. Financial assistance is provided to FPOs and value chain operators in the form of matching grant and financial intermediation loan. And when we have intervention of these magnet activities to these in terms of good agriculture practices, post-harvest management practices, I think it will lead to more remuneration to these producers and ultimately their socio-economic status would be increased.
परंतु मला हा स्वतंत्र ट्रान्सफॉर्मर दिल्यामुळे माझा तो वेळ पूर्ण सेव्ह झाला आणि त्या वेळेचं नियोजन मला माझ्या व्यवसायाच्या इतर कामांसाठी आणि कुटुंबासाठी मला त्या ठिकाणी वेळ देता आला. माझं हेल्थ त्यामुळे निश्चितच सुधारलेलं आहे असं मला वाटतं.
The way the Maharashtra has done the HVDS schemes, the way that we are getting the result, the way it is successful, it is going to open a way for almost all the states and even for the private sector. So that is the future.
Now, with clean, uninterrupted power supply, avenues for doing agriculture will increase, and this will go a long way in raising the standard of living of farming communities living in rural Maharashtra.
Okay, well, that was a great video, and now I'd like to hand it over directly to Masahiro Nishimura. Masa is with the Solutions Department with ADB, and he's going to give a few remarks to build on the video. So, Masa, over to you.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning to India colleagues, and good afternoon here. I'm Masa, and as DG mentioned, this project has been a part of the holistic development that ADB has been supporting in Maharashtra. And it's at the time I took over this project in 2019, there were so many incidents of farmer suicides and the poverty in the rural Maharashtra, although the state as a whole has a relatively higher income than other states. But the poverty situation, especially for the rural farmers, was so serious. And the holistic packages of projects were prepared to address those. And I saw the names of government officials and ADB staff in the participants. So I wanted to start with some messages for those people. First, for ADB internal audience, I think the importance of these holistic approaches is, of course, the cross-sector collaboration. Now is the new operating model, the cross-sector collaboration may not be so easy as before when we are working under one regional DG. But I think this kind of cross-sector collaboration needs to be further enhanced under the new operating model too. And another point is learning from lessons. This project is, Magnet project is built upon the unsuccessful implementation of the previous program. And there are some issues there, and we try to address and revise that project design and very carefully design the Magnet project to come up with solutions that can work not just by the paper, but on the field. So those are 2 points that I want to highlight for internal audience. And for the government officials and external audience, my messages will be 2 points. One, as DG mentioned, we are ready to replicate, or in DG's words, standardize these approaches and to be applied in other states or even in other DMCs. And I think the current implementation for Magnet is almost coming to the half of the project life. And so far, so good. And we are delivering the results. And it's time for us to replicate in other places. And we are ready to get into dialogues with those. And the second point is about the ADB's Finance Plus, or the value addition. Both the projects, Magnet and the HVDS project, they both have attached TAs. And in case of Magnet, it's financed on the grant basis from the government of Japan through the JFPR grant. And that's key to deliver the ADB's Finance Plus elements, including the women's involvement. And as mentioned in the video, a lot of trainings through the Center of Excellences and Anchor FPOs. So we are trying to utilize the local expertise and academia to enhance the farmers' knowledge and capacity, so that those kind of capacity enhancement becomes more sustainable. If it's very much external, it will be ending there. So that's something we are trying to make. And for the HVDS, maybe Len is going to talk about it more, but closely between the two sectors, agriculture and rural development sector and the energy sector, have been working on the TA, especially on the pilot. We are identifying one distribution line and addressing the horticulture farmers to apply the better solutions for water use, so that the energy distribution, water use, especially the groundwater, and also the agriculture productivity and post-harvest management is going to be enhanced. So those value additions, of course, we are ready to replicate in other places and customized in other places. So we are looking forward to further expansion of these approaches. Thank you very much, Peter.
And thank you very much, Masa, for those very clear lessons and nuggets, both for the ADB colleagues who are joining, as well as for the external audience of officials and experts from India and other developing member countries in South Asia. So now I'd like to pass it over to Len George, a principal energy specialist with the Asian Development Bank. He'll go into the high voltage distribution system project and the results-based lending. So Len, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about some of the work that we've taken up in Maharashtra. Maharashtra, as you could see from the video, is one of the larger and relatively better developed states in India. Though, of course, there are significant inequalities that come in. It has also got one of the largest number of farmers in the state. And historically, just given the lack of adequate irrigation facilities, agriculture is dependent on rainfall or water pumping for irrigation. Now, as the DG mentioned, similar to ADB, Maharashtra has a Vision 2030 document. And so this outlined the need for the state to holistically address some of the challenges that parts of the state, particularly in rural areas, were facing. And that's when they started this discussion with ADB in terms of how we could offer support across multiple sectors to be able to bring some of these rural areas, to a better state than they were. MSEDCL or most other distribution companies in India, they typically have a low voltage network, particularly in rural areas. Now, this tends to be a low capital expenditure solution, but then it also brings in challenges with technical and commercial losses, the quality of voltage, the reliability of the network, and there are significant recurring subsidies. So in Maharashtra, we had close to about $800 million of subsidies that were being spent to provide electricity to farmers. The state of Maharashtra was probably one of the first in India that decided to go in for high voltage distribution in rural areas for farmers. And I think you've seen in the video how that has helped reduce losses. But I think there's also a very important fact that going for HVDS also dramatically alters the network architecture. And that's when you can start looking at metering of customers at a much more granular level. And that provides the kind of economic signaling that's needed, both for electricity costs as well as potentially water costs, and therefore adoption of more efficient use of electricity and water. So those downstream impacts are very significant once this is implemented at scale. Masa did mention a TA, and there's a TA that we have worked with our colleagues on the water and agriculture side to identify a feeder where 100% of all connections could then become HVDS. And when you couple that with electricity and water data monitoring, that could provide a lot of useful insights in terms of how to scale up similar programs as well as the adoption of such technology. What I found particularly interesting while we were doing this program is, we were doing our first RBL in the energy sector in the region. And that was also around the time that India was planning a much larger national results-based program, the RDSS, which would incentivize states to move towards more efficient levels. There was several rounds of interactions in terms of how the work in Maharashtra would feed into the national program. And I think that's something that's built some confidence with the way the RBL works. I still remember a lot of training programs on the ground that we did in terms of monitoring. So I think that dialogue has been useful, particularly as we try and embark on additional projects in other states, as well as national level programs. Finally, last but not the least, I would really like to recognize the role of the India Resident Mission and colleagues there who helped implement this first RBL. Without their support, this program would not have been able to achieve the success it did, particularly as we were implementing during COVID. So the years 2020 to 2023, despite all the challenges that we faced, I think disbursements were high, the team was committed, and all the disbursement linked indicators were achieved as they were laid out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Len. Thank you so much, Len. That was really awesome. Really, it's fantastic to hear about the sort of the benefits of the switching to high voltage distribution system, and the way this was done. And we're going to shift in a moment to hear from our counterparts in the Indian government. But first, we're going to try to get all of, and it's a test. It's a pass-fail test, so don't worry. We're going to do a quick poll and ask about 2 minutes and ask a couple of questions about the topic we're talking about Maharashtra and what's going on there. So please pull out your phone, just scan the QR code and answer the questions. There's 5 questions, and it should take just a couple of minutes. So for those of you who perhaps don't have your phone or are not able to do it, I'll just describe the questions while the others are filling them out. The first is a word cloud related to farmer empowerment. Then there's a question on how much do you think a farmer's income can potentially increase with proper support and resources? A question about Maharashtra's Vision 2030. Question: what is the main challenge faced by women in agriculture, and which initiative is crucial for empowering women in Maharashtra's agriculture sector? So I'd like to ask my colleague, when we're getting a critical mass of responses, and then we will share the results, and we're going to, after that, we'll go to the panel discussion, which is the highlight of this webinar. There we go. Interesting. So most effective way to reduce losses, cold chain, clear first, followed by demand-based production, proper harvesting, and consumer behavior. And then this is interesting. How can this cross-sector collaboration that our colleagues have been talking about be optimized? Intersectoral communication, that was a theme the Director General and Masa and Len spoke about. It's shifting in real time. It's going up. I should have gone long on this answer. It's a good one. And then encouraging innovation and experimentation, which is actually sort of the whole point of this this Knowledge Spotlight series that the South Asia Department is doing. Comprehensive policies, and then public-private partnerships next. Okay. What solution did the Maharashtra government implement to provide more reliable electricity? And the high voltage distribution system is clearly the top response there by a mile, and solar power grids as well, and unmetered low voltage. And I think that's it. Okay. So with that, I would like to introduce an esteemed group of panelists that I have the privilege of moderating. I'll introduce them all briefly. And maybe we can spotlight all of them, and then we'll just go to the first panelist, Mio. But we have Mia Oka from ADB, Amol Yadav from the Magna Project in Maharashtra, Mr. Prasad Reshmi from MSEB, and Akash Chandra Gartakur, who is with Akash Agri Solutions Private. So this is the panel. Excited to have a fairly brief and concise discussion because we've limited this to 1 hour. So thank you all for being here. And first, I'd like to ask Mio Oka, who's the Director of Agriculture, Food, Nature, and Rural Development for the Solutions Department of ADB, to provide some brief remarks on her perspective on what we're talking about today. Mio, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I think many of us talked about this intersectoral collaboration. And as mentioned in the video, we need to reduce poverty in a state like Maharashtra's pockets of poverty exist in rural Maharashtra. And as Masa mentioned, and also our DG mentioned, those two projects, high voltage distribution system and Maharashtra rural connectivity improvement projects, are also complemented by our agribusiness, Maharashtra Agribusiness Network project. The idea is very clear that farmers produce their produce using high voltage line, aggregate their produce, store in storage provided through magnet project, and then distribute by using rural road. And that's how farmers get more profit out of what they produce. And I think many of us already also talked about new operating model. And for those who are outside ADB, just explain the ADB has been just started to be organized by the sector. So like myself belong to the agriculture sector, and Len belong to energy sector. Masa belong to transport sector. So, and even within the sector, we have sector silos. For example, my team handles smart agriculture, agribusiness. There's another group handles irrigation and flood prevention. It gets more difficult to structure a multi-sector project. That was the impression that I had. But fortunately, there is a strengthened resident mission, our country offices, after this new operating model was launched. So I believe resident mission will take a lead on coordinating among sector teams and their pipeline project. We do discuss, particularly in the context of India, we have a state-level engagement discussions. And I'm confident this approach will work very well to identify cross-sectoral projects. So to respond to countries' requirement, ADB should be able to continue to provide cross-sectoral work. And also, we can't forget, we are also turning ourselves into a climate bank. Because of climate change, we start to have a project like a cold chain logistics, relying on solar power, and also using more nature-based solution for the simple construction activities. So those cross sectors are really becoming more natural to happen. So just to respond to some of the comments raised, I'm very hopeful to respond to the climate needs. We should be able to continue on those cross-sectoral collaboration, particularly at the state level. Thank you. I will stop here.
Thank you for those remarks, Mio. It's actually really interesting because Masa mentioned the challenge of whether it would make it more difficult with the stronger sectoral divisions within ADB to do these cross-sectoral projects. And you stressed the importance of the resident mission and also just the leadership and having discussions with counterparts at the state level to identify cross-sectoral projects, which is where this began with the Director General's remarks. And then also like layering on top of that, if you are a climate bank, you can't be siloed in sectors. It's not just energy, it's agriculture and it's things like nature-based solutions. So thank you very much. I'd like to now introduce Mr. Amol Yadav, who's a project director with the Magnet project, which was featured in the video in Maharashtra. And Mr. Yadav, can you please share some perspective and remarks on your experience with the Magnet project? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. As Masa-san has just highlighted, the purpose of Magnet project and this HVDS project is mainly to have holistic development of agriculture and rural development sectors in Maharashtra. Magnet project has came into effect almost 2 years back, and since then we are marching towards the through our implementation towards achieving our objectives. As Maharashtra being one of the most industrialized state in India, in spite of that, there is a great amount of regional disparity and the differential incomes of agriculture farmers in the state of Maharashtra. And to address that, the Magnet is envisaged to have impacts on the two major parameters is ultimately increasing the incomes of the horticulture farmers in the Maharashtra and gender mainstreaming of the women farmers. So by achieving this, this will contribute ultimately to achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 1 and 5, that is reducing poverty as well as gender inequality, reducing gender equality. So in this light, Magnet till date through its implementation has achieved some major breakthroughs. The Magnet through its three outputs, which focuses on the building capacities of horticulture farmers, horticulture growers in the Maharashtra by imparting them the good agriculture practices training, post-harvest management training, as well as training them in dealing with the company's laws of the various legal compliances that need to be met by the farmer producer companies. And we have, since 2 years of since loan has came into effect, we have given trainings to almost 12,000 horticulture grower farmers, and out of that 12,000, 3,900 are the women farmers. Again, Magnet also aimed at increasing the financial access to the finance of the horticulture growing farmers. Under this output, the ADB through Magnet project have first time introduced the component of financial intermediation loan, and this loan has started picking up this year, and we have almost our financial FIs has almost disbursed 10 million USD loans to the various beneficiaries working in the sector of horticulture, as well as the matching grant. We provide the grant to the various institutions working in the horticulture that include the farmer companies as well as the value chain players, and the projects amounting almost to $15 million have been sanctioned under this project. At the same time, Magnet is developing the public value chain infrastructure in horticulture, and around 16 public value chain infrastructure facilities are being upgraded and 3 new are being created. And the work of all these 19 will be complete by the May 2024. This is the impacts Magnet through its initial 2 years of implementation is having. And I also want to share my views about the food, energy, and this nexus. And about this nexus, what Magnet impact is having. So, on the horticulture sector, how that horticulture sector can contribute favorably in this nexus. So, I think that by adaptation of these different technologies, the horticulture sector can contribute. For example, the solar power irrigation system, even the Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Corporation is formulating one scheme through which they have started in installation of solar power irrigation system in around farms of 10,000 farmers that will ultimately generate.
Hi, I'm here with Dr. Yadav. The regularly scheduled program was briefly interrupted, and hopefully some of the other participants will be able to come back in. I think we should wait just a minute. And so we see see it's inching up, 28, 29, 30. Okay, great. So just to recap where we are, we're in the panel discussion. For those of you who are just joining or just came back in after the program was interrupted, we had Mio Oka from ADB, the Director of Agriculture, Food, Nature, and Rural Development. We will continue to hear from Amol Yadav of the Magnet Project, and then Prasad Reshmi will be next, and then Akashandra, who's with the State Electricity Distribution Company in Maharashtra, and then Akashandra Gartakur, the CEO of Akash Agri Solutions. So we'll continue with the panel discussion, and why don't you go ahead? You were just beginning, Dr. Yadav, to talk about the importance of the food, energy, water nexus. Within the food, energy, water nexus, the importance of the contribution of the horticultural sector, and also the importance and linkages to energy, which is what we're talking. One of the things we're talking about is the linkages between energy, water, and food. And in this case, you talked about the solar irrigation. So back to you, and we'll dust ourselves off, pick ourselves up, and keep going. Back to you, Dr. Yadav.
Yeah. So thank you, Peter, again. So we were discussing about the contribution of horticulture in water, energy, food nexus, and in that I was elaborating upon the solar power irrigation systems. And in addition to this, there can be other technologies like use of drip and fertigation, which can significantly reduce the water use as well as increase the yield of horticulture crops. Again, as we all aware, the climate change is looming over the whole planet, and the climate smart agriculture is in need of an hour. So we can at the same time adopt few measures, climate smart agriculture, horticulture measures like adopting drought tolerant and pest resistant varieties, diversifying our horticulture crops, or the converting our cash crops to high value horticulture crops, as well as using practices like mulching. At the same time, Magnet is focusing upon the getting access to the most of the farmers to that of the weather information in the form of few innovative satellite-based technologies and few other technologies. Through it, we can favorably affect the water, energy, food nexus. And again, there is one technology which is pilot basis being it is being demonstrated at the Pune district Mulsi farm by the common one joint pilot of the IIT Bombay and the Tata Power Limited, and that is the agrivoltaics. Agrivoltaics is the system which can the game changer if at all successful at large scale in having the favorable impact on water, energy, food nexus. This is nothing but the triple farm use. The same farm will be utilized for generating power through solar photovoltaics and for the plantation of horticulture crops, as well as through the reducing of the water, increasing water use efficiency by reducing the evaporation. So this technology can also contribute favorably to water, energy, food nexus. And ultimately, there are a lot of new and innovative technologies are coming up that can save water, that can energy use efficiency can be added. At the same time, the yield of agriculture farmers will be increased. So HVDS is also the step in similar direction. So this is what I just want to highlight about the Magnet project. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll probably go a few minutes over, but we'll try to limit it. And I apologize, Dr. Yadav, for the interruption, but really super interesting. And it's clear from what you said that the importance on the ground of getting things done in a climate smart way forces the integration of the sector. So thank you very much. We'd now like to move on to Prasad Reshmi, who's a director of projects at the Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Company. Mr. Reshmi, can you share your observations and experience and lessons learned from the high voltage distribution project, and also just reflect on briefly, because we only have a few minutes, on what you've heard so far today?
Everyone, especially Mr. DG present over here, and all the dignitaries, all the officials from ADB, and all the participants. So this is Prasad Reshmi. I am responsible for the project execution in MSEDCL, that is Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Company Limited. So basically Maharashtra is the second most populous state in India, and around half of the state's labor force is engaged in the agriculture activities, especially in the rural areas. So the Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Company Limited is a state-owned enterprise which is responsible for the distribution of electricity in entire Maharashtra except some part of the Mumbai suburbs. And presently, MSCDCL is supplying to around 30 million consumers in around 378 towns, nearly 41,000 of the villages of Maharashtra, and out of this, around 4.6 million agriculture customers are served by us. And this agriculture area or agriculture customers form around 30% of our energy consumption in Maharashtra. So the conventional method of giving electricity connections to these farmers is through the low voltage lines, wherein one distribution transformer was erected, and from that transformer around 10 to 12, in some cases around 20 connections were given from the one transformer. So ultimately there was not a control on the load of these consumers, and it used to blow up the transformers. So transformer failure resulted in the failure of the electric supply. And as we all know that electricity plays vital role in the agriculture sector. So MSCDCL come up with the idea of high voltage distribution system. So the idea behind this is to give electric connections to the farmer having their own dedicated distribution transformers. In some cases, 2 connections per transformers are given under this high voltage distribution scheme. So we have planned this scheme and we approached to the ADB for the financial assistance, and thank you very much ADB team. They have sanctioned this loan to the Maharashtra around $346 million. The loan modality which is agreed is result based lending. So some 8 link parameters were given to MSCDCL, and we have completed all these link indicators, and almost this loan I think is completed. The scheme is also on the verge of closing. So under this scheme we have given connections to around 1.56 lakh agriculture consumers in Maharashtra. It helps us in irrigating around 250,000 hectare of the land. And due to this HVDS scheme, the supply reliability and the quality of supply has increased. Because as I earlier said, there were no transformer failures. So the earlier, in the conventional method, the transformer failure was around 10 to 12%. So in this case, it is very negligible. And the transformer which failed are due to some manufacturing defect which were being replaced within a day or two. So consistent power supply is given to the agricultural consumers, and this reliable power supply has resulted in the increased agriculture productivity to around 2 to 3 times to their what they used to do before they were having the connections. So there is a huge demand for this agriculture connections now, and in the current scenario, from the results of this HVDS scheme, Government of Maharashtra has declared its agriculture policy 2020, wherein it is decided to release maximum connections through this HVDS scheme only. So basically, this scheme has given a very good advantages to the farmers. So I was talking about around 1.56 lakh agriculture connections. So there is a which has benefit not only to the male agriculturalist, but at the same time it has given the same benefit to the woman agriculturalist in Maharashtra. So after implementation of this scheme, of course, there were some other measures are also taken by MSCDCL, which has brought down our distribution losses in from 15% in 2018-19 to around 14.5% in the last financial year. And even
Mr. Rashmi, I'm sorry to, can you wrap up in 1 minute? We just have a little bit of a time limitation.
Yeah,
about
sure.
1 more minute. Thank you.
Sure. So this is the unique project which has given a good result to not only to the MSCDCL, to the all stakeholders. to the government also. So now in future we are planning to give supply through the agriculture through solarization to all these feeders. So now agriculture sector solarization scheme is in progress by MSCDCL by government of Maharashtra, and very soon all these connections will get renewable power supply, and that too they will get daytime power supply here afterwards. So this is all about the success story of HVDS scheme, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reshmian. I apologize for the brevity. We just are going to be over a little bit, so I wanted to move on. But it's clear that it's much more than just the high voltage connections, but what they empower and enable in the agriculture sector and in improving incomes and improving profitability of farmers. So the last panelist is Akashandra Gartakur. He's the CEO of Akash Agri Solutions Private Limited. And I'd like him to share his observations briefly. And then before you start, Mr. Gartakur, I'd like to ask folks on the webinar, whether you're an ADB staff or external official from or expert from South Asia or any other region, to put questions into the chat, into the Q&A channel. So at the bottom of the Zoom call, there is a Q&A channel. We will take all the questions. We will not be able to answer them today, but we will be sharing some post-event communications, and we will endeavor to answer all those questions. So please think about the questions you have that you would like answered. And meanwhile, we'll go over to Mr. Gartakur. Thank you, and sorry for the interruption, but we're glad to be all back here together and interested in hearing from you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone. We are the actual beneficiary of the Magnet project in terms of matching grant as well as anchor FPC. So climate change is alarming everywhere, and as we are discussing since last 1 hour, there is a huge use of water and electricity in agricultural production. But apart from this, there is around 50,000 plant diseases are there, 30,000 different weeds, and 10,000 species of insects through which crop production has to be gone. So the irrigation management is one of the important aspect in terms of the horticulture production, and the use of micro irrigation technologies for the crop production is increasing day by day. But that because of the less water availability, dependency on the waterfalls, and as we are seeing that less water is falling as it is in the last decades, but the waterfall days are becoming less. We have in terms of a waterfall, it is equally as it is in the past, but now the days of waterfall is very less. So there is a challenge to manage the irrigation system for the crops. Again, water is a natural resource, and we use for the crop production. So the drip irrigation or other micro irrigation systems that has been increasing demand day by day, and thanks to the government of Maharashtra is also providing certain kind of subsidies for the use of micro irrigation systems. So post harvest losses in agriculture can't be addressed through this technology. So it has to go through the entire ecosystem of a crop production, post harvest, marketing, and then to the end consumer. And I think through this Magnet project, there is a lot of support available for establishing the post harvest infrastructure in terms of processing capacities. And again, we are training to a lot of our stakeholders, our farmers, through the anchor FPC for the use of gap practices, nutrition management, micro irrigation management, and so many things we are talking about. Actually, we can say Magnet project is a architecture of multilateral system, or multilateral collaborations are happening there. In agriculture, definitely one cannot do all the things. There should be certain partnership for the success. And I think in a magnet project, we are getting a matching grant support for the establishing of post-harvest infrastructure. As well, we are getting a lot of supports in networking the stakeholders in the agriculture supply chain management. So there is a growing impact on the value chain because of this project. And there are a lot of other impacts that is happening because of the magnet project is that we need to calculate how much volume of the produce is handled through this post-harvest infrastructure that has been created to the through the magnet project. So the entire ecosystem or the entire value chain is organized by this project. And yes, financial institutions are also coming ahead because of the matching grant is available. Promoters are providing certain kind of promoters contribution. So I think in the coming days we will see the larger result of the this magnet project for handling agri produces, use of micro irrigation technologies, and definitely use of micro irrigation technologies will also reduce the energy use. Apart from that, now farmers are talking about the community based irrigation systems also. There are a lot of projects coming ahead in which we are using fertigation systems which are technology based, which are sensor based. Because of the project, people are getting more and more information. There are a lot of solutions are also available to which access is available through the magnet project. So I think there will be a larger impact once these pilots are done and results are getting out of that. Then immediately the people or the larger community will follow that kind of a projects. They will use micro irrigation systems. They will use the post harvest technologies. So this kind of results are happening because of the magnet project. And yes, definitely because of the use of technology, water efficiency, there is a drastic reduction in the cost of production of the crop. And that is equally more important in the agriculture crop cycle, that we need to reduce the cost of production. We need to use the more and more natural resources in an effective way. We need to use the irrigation management through artificial intelligence kind of a thing. And I think one more suggestion from our side is that as there is a need to work on the post harvest technologies also, because most of the technologies are available across the globe, but the people in India, or the farmer groups or the value chain operators had a limited access to that technologies. So that needs to be interacted, and I think magnet team is already working on that. They are trying to bring these technology providers across the globe. And very soon, I think through our FPC or Anchor FPC, we are trying to establish one project in community-based irrigation system. Also, already one pilot is done in our area, where solar-based power generation, then fisheries cultivation and horticulture cultivation, all is going all together. So that will be replicated in the entire state, I think, very soon. So these are the insights of the magnet project as a beneficiary from our side. And again, use of artificial intelligence and digital technologies is increasing day by day in the project. Even a lot of venture capital people are putting funds into the this digital agriculture. But that will be workable only when the post harvest infrastructure is available. And I think that will be done through this whatever we are doing through the matching grant project. So the matching grant, the infrastructure which has been established through this matching grant project will work as a bridge infrastructure in between backward forward integration. And also it will help to increase the use of digital technologies through which we can actually have control over the cost of production and how the natural resources has been utilized into that. So
okay, with that, I'd like to thank you very much. Those are really wide-ranging remarks and really clear about the sort of new approaches and technologies, especially digitalization and things like micro irrigation and the community-based irrigation are being taken up, and some recommendations going forward. So can I ask you to just share just briefly, because we do need to go to closing remarks, just a little bit about, just if you could just say what Akash Agri Solutions does.
Sorry, Peter.
Sorry, your company, Akash Agri Solutions, because you've been talking as a beneficiary. Just briefly, what does describe your business briefly?
Yeah. Akash, actually, Akash Agri Solution is not the beneficiary of the magnet project. Actually, farmer producer company, Akash Agro Farmer Producer Company, is the beneficiary in terms of establishing post-harvest infrastructure. We are getting grant for the establishment of post-harvest infrastructure. As well, we are anchor FPC also.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. So I don't want to keep people more than 10 minutes over the time because we have the glitch. I'm going to introduce Mr. Jong in just one moment. But I would strongly encourage those of you here, whether you're ADB staff or external, to submit questions in the Q&A box and we will answer them. I just also wanted to say before I introduce you, Steve, that the whole idea behind this knowledge spotlight is, as the Director General said, to really share the lessons, share the impact. So even though we weren't able to get to Q&A, there's a ton of information and nuggets that we will synthesize and share some of the key lessons from each of the ADB team, the Magnet team, and the Maharashtra State Electricity Distribution Company, and you, Mr. Gotakor. So we will share those. And now, so just to wrap up, what's been an incredibly exciting and very information-packed hour, just over an hour webinar, I'd like to introduce Ho Yun Jong, who is the Deputy Country Director for ADB's India Resident Mission. And I give you the honor to have closing remarks, and then we'll end the webinar. Mr. Jong.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from India Resident Mission. Let me first thank Jajira and her team for putting together this knowledge event on the water, energy, to the nexus. Let me also extend our appreciation to the moderators, speakers, and panelists for sharing their time and expertise today. At the outset, from Indian perspective, we are very glad that 2 projects in Maharashtra were presented as good cases for today's knowledge sharing. In this session, we heard inspiring stories from the speakers and panelists on the transformational impacts of 2 Maharashtra projects. And what stands out most from today's seminar is that both projects have explored new grounds of pushing innovation and offering direct access to upgraded infrastructure in a synergetic manner. And the solutions adopted here in both projects also point to the right direction to the complex development challenges facing our DMCs. More specifically on the energy side, the choice of RBL and also strong partnership with the state government and implementing agency have led to a novel approach to electricity distribution, helping serve even the most remote areas of rural Maharashtra. The Agri project, on the other side, is helping farmers to connect to the markets and agricultural value chains, improve farming techniques, and particularly provide support to women farmers. Let me also highlight that this is all made possible thanks to technical assistance to various software components supported by the government of Japan. Last but not least, we recognize the importance of cross-sectoral synergies in the spirit of one SARD. And both projects truly represent an inspiration for more integrated approaches. that can bring multiple sectors together, which is also aligned with the spirit of our new operating model. So in closing, I would like to thank our counterparts from the government of Maharashtra for their participation and sharing valuable lessons today learned with us. With this, let me thank you again for this insightful workshop and your participation. Thank you. Over to you, Peter and Jajira.
Not much to add to that. That was very well summarized. Just a note, a housekeeping note. We have a few questions in the Q&A. We also have some questions that we have discussed and developed internally. We will share those with the post-event communications. And once again, stay tuned for this channel of the South Asia Regional Department Knowledge Spotlights. This has been a very deep and nuanced and multi-layered integrated presentation reflecting what's going on the ground with these innovative ADB projects using an integrated holistic approach. So thank you to all of you who joined today, and to the panelists and to the team that put the webinar together. Have a wonderful rest of the day.